Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA front office show. We've got a busy day today with the NBA Finals starting up tomorrow. We've got tons of trade rumors, things like that to dive into today. The NBA's new media rights deal. We'll talk about that and what that might mean for your viewership, and new uniforms for a certain team that's so badly needed them. We'll take a look at those as well. Make sure you are subscribing to the NBA Front Office Show on YouTube. Don't forget, over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify as well. And check out the Basketball Bulletin, new YouTube channel that we opened up. You guys can find that. I'll put that in the link in the description down below. And then the Substack, basketballbulletin.substack.com. Check that out as well. Keith, busy time of year. We've got that convergence of finals stuff, draft stuff, trade stuff, all kinds of things, free agency, all kinds of things happening at once. So this is a fun time on the NBA calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a fun time. Definitely a very busy time. It's funny because I have talked to many people whose teams have been in the finals over the years from a lot of teams. And for like the front office side, it's like a doubly stressful time on them because they're trying to finish draft prep. They're trying to finish off-season prep. And if their team's in the finals, they're like, of course, you're highly invested in your team trying to win. So it's like, now they openly say at that point, for the current team that's in the finals, our work is done. We spend all day focused on the other stuff, and then much like fans, we tune in at night and we're ready to go at nighttime because there's not anything left to do. But yeah, it's crazy. I want to hand up and admit something. I did not put the week off between games in the NBA to the best of use as I should have. I didn't get as much work done as I had hoped to. I tried, and I failed a little bit on that. So there's still going to be some cramming going on here, but that's why we have 2 days off in between games to break it all down, to cry, to complain, to get psyched up again, and to do some work in between. So that'll be where it is.
That's right. Plenty for us to get into today, and I guess let's start here. The Rockets talking trade with the number 3 pick with the Nets and the Grizzlies. Now, the Nets, the rumored target being Mikal Bridges. They'd like to land him. We know they had talks around the trade deadline, but the problem is that for the Rockets, they want to get Bridges. The Nets want to get pieces to put around Bridges. So kind of difficult to work out a trade there. But also, ironically, the number 3 pick used to be Brooklyn's pick, so it could wind up traded to Houston and then back to Brooklyn. And then the Grizzlies, the rumors they'd like to draft Donovan Clingan, although no clearer idea of exactly what they would give up in order to maybe just move up. Maybe they trade the number 9 and move up to the number 3. But the bottom line, the Rockets are willing to deal with that number 3 draft pick, and we know they'd probably like to make a win now move, just like, well, it seems like everybody in the Western Conference right now.
Yeah, I think with the Rockets, I'm guessing this is kind of talking trade on the outward side with the Nets, talking trade with the calls coming in from the Grizzlies. At least that's kind of how I'm piecing this together a little bit, is where it's the Grizzlies are trying to move up. Like you said, they're trying to get Donovan Clingan. What a great addition he would be. And there was a point during the draft process where it looked like, all right, maybe he'll land with the Grizzlies. And then, of course, with the Hawks jumping up, the Grizzlies slid back in the draft order. So that turned into a whole kind of thing for them there a little bit. And Clingan's stock has only improved since the national title run and beyond. So now he's probably out of range with them with the 9th pick. And they would very likely need to move up if they want to draft him. And then we knew the Rockets made a big play for Mikal Bridges at the trade deadline. The rumor, and it's been, I'm going to say, more than a rumor. Let's call it a full-fledged report because it's so many different people have had it. They basically said, hey, we'll give you all your picks back for Mikal Bridges. And the Nets said, no, we're not interested. And it sounds like the Nets are still saying they're not interested because they want to build around Mikal Bridges and want to bring players in around him. So I don't know that we're going to get to a match there, but clearly Houston didn't quite get to where they wanted to go last year, but a great season nonetheless. Now I think Houston is in a spot where it is, let's try to get off this pick. We do not need to add another kid to the mix, especially a kid who's probably going to take 2-3 years to really be full-fledged, ready to contribute in the NBA. Let's try to move out of this. If we can get vets in, let's go. So I'm going to be very interested. I would not be surprised if we're 3 weeks from now at the start of the draft and it's the whole, the draft really starts at at 3 with the Rockets because the other two teams aren't trading. Like that could be where we end up.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely could be. And look, the Rockets are a team that, as you said, they were really, really good this last season. Played 500 ball. So even though they weren't a playoff team or even a play-in team, they played 500 basketball. They've got some interesting pieces on that squad, and they've got that desire to add to this group and potentially make a real push this next year. It'll be. I don't know. I don't. It feels to me, just based on the reporting that we've seen, that, in my opinion, the Nets overvalue Mikal Bridges. And if
Agreed.
that's the case, I have a hard time seeing a deal for him getting done. Now, maybe two sides, whether it's the Rockets or somebody else, meet closer to the middle around the draft, and then off you go, and we find a Mikal Bridges team. But it is interesting that they're talking with the Nets about Bridges. I'm sure they're not going to be the only team talking to him. But the Grizzlies moving up, I do wonder what would it cost the Grizzlies. Let's say they just want to, and maybe the Rockets just want to move out of the draft. They just say, we don't even care about getting the 9 pick. Let's get pieces to help us win now. But what if you're just jumping from 9 to 3? 9 plus what equals 3?
Yeah, that's the tough part because you're right. So let's take some players off the table first. You're not getting Jaren Jackson Jr. You're not getting Desmond Bain. You're not getting John Morant. Right. Probably not getting Marcus Smart. Maybe Brandon Clark. I could be in play there. Maybe Santi Aldama. Then you're getting into the guys where I think, sure, if you want one of these guys, if you want Zaire Williams, if you want Jake LaRavia, if you want Derrick Rose, like, all right, well, we can do, any number of those guys. A little bit of the problem is if you look at the Rockets roster too, what are we feeling like this is absolutely what they have to have? They've got forwards for days because we're going to assume Tari Eason will be back and fully healthy and ready to go next year. They've got Thompson, who's going to back up Van Vliet and also can play really any position 1 through 3. You have Şengün and now Steven Adams behind him. So you start to run out of, what is it you need? Is it a perfect roster? No, obviously not. Right. But there's nothing that screams out, oh my God, the Rockets have to get this. They don't have anything at point guard or anything like that. So that's where I'd be very curious to see. I think there it becomes, hey, help us flesh out our depth a little bit, maybe kind of across the board with 1 or 2 players. And then we'll move you the pick and we go that way. And for Memphis, that could be one where it is, hey, this helped us clear a couple roster spots and helped us get off a little bit more money than what we might have had to pay out otherwise. So this could be a win-win if it was the Grizzlies. I want to go back to your Bridges point though, because I think it's a really good one. I think you and I are on the same page where I want to be very clear. Neither one of us thinks Mikal Bridges is anything but a great basketball player.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's like the Nets are valuing him like he's a multi-time all-star. And that's not who he is as a player. I continue to believe if Mikal Bridges is your 3rd best player, you probably have a really good team. Yeah. If he's your 2nd best player, you're probably okay and in a playoff. If he's your 1st best player, I don't think you're a playoff team. You're probably going to look a lot like what the Nets were, which is not absolutely terrible, but you're probably not quite good enough. The other piece with Mikal Bridges, he's not 25. He's 28 years old at the start of next season. So that starts to be, not that it's like, well, Mikal Bridges is hobbling out off the court and into the retirement home, but it's not like there's like a ton of upside left there for him to grow into or anything like that. You're looking at a guy on his next contract. He's going to be in his early to mid 30s. And that starts to get a little more questionable value wise too.
Yeah. So if you're the Nets and you're saying, well, we're going to be good 2-3 years from now, it gets to be problematic. Yeah. All right, let's look at this though. The Rockets at 3, that pick is in play. The Spurs at 4, that pick also in play. The Spurs also at 8, so they've got potentially 2 picks that they could combine. But I put it as the title: Spurs and everyone else willing to trade first, because right now you look at this draft, and Keith, you go down the list here. Atlanta, they probably stick at 1, but if you were ever going to move the number 1 overall pick, it would be a year like this, where there's not a Wemby or whatever at the top. Washington, okay, they probably keep their pick. We've heard specifically Houston, San Antonio. There's been rumors even Detroit would consider moving their pick. They've got a bunch of young guys already on their team. Portland probably sticks. Charlotte probably sticks. San Antonio willing to move it. Memphis willing to move it. Utah willing to move it. Chicago, who the hell knows what they're doing.
That
OKC
would
willing to
require
give
Chicago doing a trade.
right.
They have
Yeah.
not done trades in a couple years, so that'd be step one.
Exactly, right? Sacramento, there have been reports they're very, very willing to move their pick.
Yeah.
Miami will be, Philly will be, the Lakers will be. I mean, you just go down the list. It really feels like this is a draft where almost every team that has a first is very open to moving that pick. And it makes me think just simple economics, supply and demand, right? With the supply of first round picks potentially being available being so high, I wonder if teams are going to struggle to find value for those picks this year.
I think you can have that. I also think what that can sometimes open up is a targeted move up, meaning
Yeah.
we really like player X. He's still on the board at 10, where Utah is. Let's try to get up to 10 to get him so that we don't feel like, I don't know, if we're the Kings at 13 and the guy we really, really love, we don't know if he'll get past 11 and 12. Let's move up to go get him. That's where we could see some stuff there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a draft where it has become very much teams. I think when it's such a flat draft, teams start to really kind of lock in and say, all right, we have to really, we got to know if we're the Trailblazers at 7, we have to really probably know 15, 20 guys for the 7th pick, because if we trade back, we trade up, we got to really have a good sense of who could be on the board for us, and that's a big part of it. Is well, what do we do with this? This is a part of the reason why even when teams like the Nets, who we just talked about, they're the only team without a single pick in the 2024 NBA draft. But they've been scouting all these guys and working on it and all that.
You have to.
Because you never know what may happen. Maybe you do decide to move Mikal Bridges and take the 3rd pick. And you never want to be. I wish I could remember. It was a football team that openly came out and admitted, like, well, they took our guy and we weren't really sure who it was. And I'm not referencing draft day. This was truly a real thing that happened. And it was like it was like we weren't sure which way to go because we'd only scouted 4 guys or whatever it was. And it was like, all right, well, that's like, you can't do that, right? Like you have to be prepared. So I think we're going to see a movement in the draft, but I think it'll be targeted move ups where it is, I want this guy. As for the Spurs part, 100%. And the bigger thing, this came from Jonathan Gavoni, but I think he said it on the Ringers NBA draft podcast. I think he was, I don't know who he was on there with. I apologize, but I know that's where I saw the quote from. And one of the things he said is the Spurs are trying to get good right away. They're basically looking at and saying, other than Wembanyama and Devin Vassell, and we're open to moving everybody else on this roster, which I'm 100% in agreement with, and we're willing to move the picks because we're trying to be very good right away. And I think that's the right call with how good Wembanyama showed up as a rookie. I don't buy the whole they're not good by the end of his 2nd year, he's going to start asking out nonsense. I am though there where, hey, let's try to get good sooner rather than later. Let's use these years while he's on this cheap rookie scale contract to the best of the ability we can to build out a really great team around him.
Yes, a similar situation with the Thunder where they've got guys on these cheap rookie contracts and they're able to then build around. And then Victor Wembanyama is he's so great that just having him on a cheap rookie contract is enough for you to say, hey, let's build this thing. But Keith, the guy that I'm really keeping an eye on, it's Keldon Johnson. He's been coming off the bench for them, but 25 years old. He's got that contract that actually declines after next season, goes down to $17.5 million. I think it's an incredibly reasonable deal. And I could see him being a guy that, number one, I could see him being a guy that the Spurs move on from, but I also think he's a guy that teams around the NBA will value and will target. So if it's, hey, we're going to get your number 4 pick plus Keldon Johnson, we're going to give you a piece that is going to be that I don't like just throwing a name out there that's out on the market, a Brandon Ingram or DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, maybe he's a piece in a trade like that.
It's funny because my favorite trade for Darius Garland is just the straight up Ingram Garland swap.
Yeah.
But I could see a world where the Cavs are like, all right, Keldon Johnson in a draft pick, or Keldon Johnson, Malachi Branham in a draft pick or something, and we'll give you Darius Garland. Like that's pretty good too. I think I would be all over that from both sides. Because if you're the Cavs, we had a wing who can really play. I know you're with me. We're both pretty big Keldon Johnson fans.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought the Spurs were a little silly with the idea of bringing him off the bench. I didn't care when it was let's start Jeremy Sohan. I didn't like it as much when it was like let's play Julian Champagny over him. Then I was a little like, what are we doing here? But I mean, hey, if their thing is he's best as a high minute guy coming off the bench, okay, that's fine. I guess I'm not gonna stress over that too much. But I really like Keldon Johnson. One thing with the Spurs too, because I've been asked this a lot. A lot of people have seen my cap space projections that are out there, and they said, "Why do you only have the Spurs with 21 million? Like they don't have anybody on roster." Well, they kind of don't, but Wembanyama as the number one pick, he's at thanks for pulling it back up.
Yeah.
He's at 12.7 million. You've got Johnson at 19. Vassell's extension kicks in at the highest number it'll be for the life of it at 29.3. Zach Collins' extension kicks in at 16.7. Even if you wipe out most of Devontae Graham, you still have 4 guys there that are making a good chunk of money, plus 2 more draft picks. You put it all together, and that leaves you with a little less cap space than what you think. Where I think people think super young team, they must have a ton of cap space. Well, they've already signed a handful of guys already, and that's like the difference between them and, say, the Thunder, who have only really signed Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and then Lou Dort. The Spurs already have a couple other guys, because even the guys below that, Trey Jones is on a pretty big contract. Then you just start adding up all the little ones, and it all adds up to quite a few guys.
Yeah, and so that'll be something that they'll have to navigate. But these are also, let's say the Spurs are okay, so you can't absorb 40 million in salary or something like that. But these are all guys that I think teams would have some interest in, and they're short-term deals. I think that's the key piece here. They're short-term. Yeah. If a team says, hey, at just under 12% of the cap, we'll give Zach Collins a try. And if it doesn't work out, well, he expires in 2 years. So whatever. And so it'll be Zach Collins in a trade plus a pick for somebody on a bigger salary, with the Spurs, of course, eating part of that money into their books, even though they don't have the cap space to eat the whole thing, like if it's a $35 million contract or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're spot on with that.
All right, let's jump over to the weirdness that is my Lakers. JJ Redick, Keith, we're running out of words to describe the situation. With now, we've got the Lakers are zeroed in on. It feels like it's draft night already. The Hawks are laser focused, right, on taking this player. The Lakers now, according to Shams Charania, are zeroed in on making JJ Redick and they're very careful. They stop short of saying on making him the head coach. They're zeroed in on JJ Redick as the front runner to be the head coach. It's funny at this point. It's like they're saying everything they possibly can while knowing that they can't just say that he's got the job. I can't wait till somebody tries to one-up Shams, and I don't know how exactly they're going to do it, but they're going to make it like the Lakers are on the precipice of naming JJ Redick as their head coach or something. Like, come on, it's done. We know what's happening.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts on that. One is, my first thought is, it's like, here I am, Celtics guy. I'm like, good Lord, would the finals start? And I can only imagine as a Lakers guy, you're like, would you just hire him already? What are we doing? Like, just be right. Like, it's just like, we're both like, wait, like this thing is coming and we're both waiting and know it's going to happen. And we're just like, would it get here already? I think the other thing is, I continue to believe what's really happened here is the Lakers and ESPN have an agreement of, all right, we're going to hold off on announcing him as the head coach until, I don't know, whatever seconds. It'll be the opposite of firing Van Gundy while he's on the court. It'll be we're hiring JJ Redick as they're signing off from the finals broadcast. Unfortunately, if people watched our last show a couple of days ago, it's probably not going to play out where he takes a steel chair to Jason Tatum and rips off the suit.
It's the RKO.
Jersey. Yeah, I mean, as much as that would be amazing, but I do think it's going to be I think that's probably what's going on. I thought some of the other reporting, quite frankly, has been a little interesting. Now there's reports of maybe they want James Borrego to come in as his top assistant.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't know how James Borrego would feel about that. In some world, you right, this is a cutthroat business. You almost have to think, hey, if he screws up, I'm right here then. Like, I could move right over. I would hope he's not kind of going to bed with his JJ Redick voodoo doll and sticking pins in him.
Jason Kidd and Frank Vogel, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So I think that, maybe they do go that way. I do think they'll, he'll get a handful of veteran coaches to come in, guys who've been around, done that to ease the transition. But as way less than you have been asked about it, I've been asked a lot, like, what do you think about this? And I kind of, my standard answer is, I don't really know what to think about it because I've never seen him coach before. I love his analytical approach to the game. Not in people then are like, oh, great. So he's a numbers guy who's going to be like, don't take mid range. That's not what I mean. I just like the way he breaks down the game, the way he thinks through basketball. So I'm a fan from that standpoint. I just don't know what he'll do as a coach. I do know you're not walking into a harder job, maybe in professional sports than this one, because the expectation is deliver us a championship or get us close, or you failed. Like there's no middle ground because of, one, the franchise it is with the Lakers, and two, LeBron James, Anthony Davis are there. Well, we assume LeBron will be there, but like those guys are there right now, so you better win. Like anything short of that, it wasn't enough, and it's not good enough. So that's a tough spot to be in your first time as a head coach.
It's a very difficult spot. I've been saying it may be the most difficult job in sports. Just given the expectations, the spotlight, all of that. Speaking of which, I've got a question on that in just a moment when we finish here. But when I look at the JJ Redick situation, I think you're right in terms of how he breaks down the game. The question is, does that translate? And it's almost to me like if you were to take a pitcher in baseball and you were to say, hand him a football. Like, we know this guy can throw really hard, but it's a very different thing throwing a football versus throwing a baseball. Will that translate? You're not sure. Maybe it will for some guys. For some guys, the grip's going to feel totally different. We know the guy's really good at one thing. He's really good at throwing an object, but will that translate to a completely different object? So we know JJ Redick's really good at breaking down basketball and reading the game and all that kind of stuff. But is he really good at doing that and imparting that to others and coaching a team, which is a very, very different thing? That's the big unknown right now. But apparently he has sold the Lakers on the idea that he can. Did you see his response when he was asked about it this morning?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
He was asked about, hey, the elephant in the room. And JJ, I've got the clip here. This is on the Gojo and Golick show. And JJ says, my focus is on the NBA Finals. I'll say that. In terms of Shams, that will be addressed once the season is over. I'll just say that. He said a few more things in between here. I'm jumping forward in the comment. And then he clarified. He said, I don't mean any job. I just mean Shams in particular. We'll wait on that one, because it sounded like at first he's saying, oh, after the finals. Right after the finals, this all come out, and then he said, "Oh no, I mean, I'm going to address Shams after the finals." Either way, like everybody, we know it's
JJ is a smart guy, so he probably realized, like, oh, I better
clean that up
here. Yeah, and I've seen people ask why can't he take the Lakers job and then commentate the finals? It's just not a good look. It's not a good look to have what would be a current head coach commenting. There's also all kinds of rules where, God forbid, he talks about, man, you know who I really like is Derek Lively. Boy, he's played really well. All of a sudden, you're going to have tampering, and all that nonsense stuff. So you can't do it. It's too hard. And people are like, how's that different than Draymond Green? I get it, but he's not. He is doing a post-game show there. That's a slightly different thing. So in general, I think it would probably be fine. I don't think if he was JJ Redick, Lakers coach, I don't think all of a sudden he's going to be, let me crap all over the Celtics because they're our historic rival here in the finals. But I think it would be fine. I think he'd do a good job and still do the good job he does anyway. I just think let's try to avoid any potential issues with this and just keep it quiet, even if I think at this point we all feel pretty good how it goes. I don't know. Maybe James Borrego takes the steel chair to JJ Redick on the sideline, and he's the Lakers coach. I don't know. Maybe that's how it's going to play out. I'm determined I don't even watch wrestling anymore, and I'm determined to make it into WWE.
To make it happen.
Yeah, right.
He's like Diamond Dallas Page is about to put on the NWO red and black shirt. I can't believe I'm about to do this, right? And then he comes flying in and hits him. No, it's not happening. All right, let's. Oh, by the way, I've got a new video coming out on the Basketball Bulletin shortly. Our editor
go.
just sent it over, so that's exciting. It's actually on JJ Redick, so some exciting stuff
Nice.
there.
Perfect.
But Keith, I had a thought here. So we talk a lot about how difficult the Lakers' job is, and how I've got some people have said, Tim Bontemps, who we know how he tends to act when the Lakers are the topic. He has this whole shtick, but. Um, Mentioned that he thinks it may be the worst job in the NBA, and that got me thinking.
I know what you're talking about.
And again, he's got that's his thing, that's his shtick. But what's the best job? If every head coach were to be removed from their team and randomly assigned a draft order, and you get to pick which team you're going to coach for. And I know it would come down to different coaches preferring, this team's in a rebuild, this team's not, things like that. But in general, who's the number one pick if every team was available?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to dance around that part of it a little bit, the Lakers would be extremely high on that list.
Sure.
Like, if not number 1, 2 or 3, maybe. I mean, I could see a world where people would say Boston already has the ready-made title contender. Drop me in there. And
Sure.
you know how coaches work, just like players. They all have big egos. So I can get them there, right? Joe Mazzulla can't do it, but I can. I think Denver would be very high on the list because it's Jokic and he's locked up. You have that, but after that, Oklahoma City maybe just because of the young talent and all the draft picks. Lakers no lower than 4th on that list. That would be. I don't even know that I'd put them that low. They might be 1st or 2nd. It's LeBron too. Like, who would want to coach LeBron? I'm doing all this assuming LeBron's there.
Right. I took a little bit of a different approach here.
Okay.
So I look at who wins Coach of the Year. Each year, it's typically the award has kind of become a which team exceeds expectations the most, right? That's what it's come down to. So what about Memphis? And I know there's the Ja Morant situation, right? Where you got to know that he's got his head on straight and everything. But you are almost certain in terms of job security, you're all but certain to have a better season than last year. You're going to improve. And the expectations, right? The expectation on the Thunder is now that they are a championship quality team. That's the expectation on the Lakers. That's on the Celtics. That's on the Denver Nuggets. That you'd be walking in with the expectation is here. If you wind up a little bit below that, everybody's on you. Everybody's upset, right? Memphis was down here last season. They're automatically, just by getting guys healthy, they're going to rise up and be in the mix in the West.
Sure.
Aren't you guaranteed almost, just about, nothing's necessarily fully guaranteed, but of a successful season, the accolades that come with that and the perception of you as a coach would also shift considerably because, hey, I took a team that was down here last year and now they're up here. That's the kind of thing that can make somebody's career, not to mention the diminished media scrutiny that you get in Memphis compared to some of the bigger markets. So I looked at that and thought, if I had to pick a team that I know is I'm going to come in, they're going to get better, and I'm going to be able to point to that and say, see, look what I did. That might not be a bad spot.
Yeah, no, it's a good point too. And you could take them to a place they've never been to. Like there's always, we hear that sometimes with coaches and players, like how cool it was to be the one to do it for the first time or the first time in any number of decades or whatever it is. Like that is a thought process. I tend to go more for give me the sure thing of I know I'm going to be pretty good and it's not going to be pretty good for like a week. Like it should be pretty good for a while. And that's where I like it's funny that you brought up the comments about like it's the worst job. I don't know that it's the worst. If that phrasing was toughest right now, I would say 100% agree. Like I think that's a very hard spot to be in. I think that'd be a hard spot for a veteran coach who had been around because just the expectations are where they are. Worst is that's kind of crazy to me in a lot of ways. I think it's one of the best jobs for a lot of the reasons I've laid out in the past with the Lakers. Part of the reason why I don't put a ton of stock in, hey, 2028 Lakers picks is I don't expect they're ever going to be bad for very long. So even if there is a dip, they're the Lakers. They're going to come right back up. You have to be very certain. I bought at the bottom, right? And I got their pick the year it all fell apart, and they decided we got to rebuild fully, and that's what it is. And I don't trust that they're ever going to be down for very long, because they're the Lakers, if for no other reason other than, and sometimes I think people think I'm being critical when I say that. I'm not. Like, they do a wonderful job of taking advantage of their things, and the Heat have been the same way in the East, where it is place people like to live, pretty stable ownership, front office structure. Let's make this work with this. So, I mean, my running joke has been, it's no reason Pat Riley spent a couple winters in New York and was like, get me back to a warm weather city and get me out of here where I can really, build, and do this. And I don't have to be cold 6 months a year. So yeah, but that's my challenge. That's my thing. In a lot of ways, I think I think my combo of phrases would be best and toughest would be the spot I'd be. Because if you don't win, you're out. I mean, I get it. I know Lakers fans feel a certain way about Darvin Ham. A lot of coaches wouldn't have been out already. But with the Lakers, it wasn't good enough. You got to go. We got to go in a different direction. And that will always be a thing as well. So, yeah, worse, I can't get there. That's I don't know. That's phrasing I don't agree with.
All right. Well, and obviously, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. All right, let's jump here. Let's give everybody a little treat for their eyes. The Jazz, the new uniforms, the badly needed new uniforms. Ta-da! Now, this is not this coming season. This is the season after, right?
Yeah, one of them that I think it's that black one there with the 24 on it. I think that comes in this year. There's the alternate, but the ones that are predominantly like purple in color, those will start with the next season, the 25-26 season.
And podcast listeners who can't see these jerseys, you can find them online.
Just go to jazz.com.
Yeah, right. They're very, very nice looking. This is, to me, it's a modernization of the old Jazz jerseys from like the 90s, which is really cool. Which those are beloved. I really like the black one. I think it looks good. I like the kind of the shadow of the mountain behind the Jazz logo and everything. I think these are such an improvement over the neon yellow things that they're wearing. They look like rec league jerseys. These are such an improvement, much needed, and I love them. I love them. The only thing I wish jersey wise is that we would go back to home, away, and then one alternate. But in lieu of that, I think this is a phenomenal improvement for the Utah Jazz. And then for those wondering, the one that's blank on there, they are not actually playing in a blank jersey. That's the city edition that they just have not revealed yet. Though I said blank jerseys would be kind of fun just to mess with your opponent or something.
It would also be, in my opinion, an improvement over those yellow and black ones.
Yeah, yes. Give me the blank jersey.
I don't like the current Jazz colors, because I thought they always had one of the more fun uniform sets for years. So I'm excited to see this go. If people go to jazz.com, there is little tabs under each one of them that tells you this is when they're starting, like what dates they start. And you can pull it up there. Like, these are all listed out for 25-26. But if you were to scroll up on the page, which does show the old ugly yellow ones, it's going to tell you after we get past the cute kids. There it is, right at the bottom. There it is. That'll tell you a little bit more of this is when they're starting to wear each of these. And part of that is there's uniform rules around how quickly you can swap a uniform out. And that's to reality is protect the fans. They don't want the fans. We know some fans are like, I got to have all of them, right? I have to have every jersey that's out there, and they don't want them having to buy new jerseys every single year. So that's the primary ones. But yeah, I like the black one too. I like that it keeps the purple and the sky blue. We don't need to look at it here, but they break it down that there are three primary colors now moving forward are mountain purple, midnight black, and sky blue. And that's going to be what you're going to see throughout all the new uniform sets. I think they look gorgeous. I think they're great. And I'm also with you. White jerseys at home, color jerseys on the road, and then get into one alternate jersey if you want it. And if you want to break out special ones on like Christmas or whatever, some sort of special holiday, that's fine. But I kind of feel like that should be maybe a true throwback jersey.
Yeah.
Like just go with a throwback and tell everybody, hey, it's throwback night and go, which they don't really do much of anymore
Mm-mm.
with this new setup.
There's
So
so many jerseys now. I mean,
yeah,
you
too
never know
many.
what jerseys they're wearing any given night, even though there's a
Yep.
website that shows you exactly what
Yeah.
they're wearing and when and everything. But still, mostly where I'm not checking that all the time. You turn on the game and you're like, oh, they're wearing that jersey. But
I have
I
a
like
buddy
that.
who has Magic season tickets, and he coordinates like his jersey with every game. Like
Really?
he checks those, yeah, and he wears whatever the team is wearing. And the funny joke is like, it's like, you would think they might be down a guy, and they're gonna be like, can you go
You
tonight? You get
did.
your sneakers? Like, well, what are you doing? But yeah, it's funny, and I've talked to a lot of the equipment guys, and they're like, thank God for that site because it allows us to know what to pack and what we need to do. That I forget who did it. Somebody did a story on the equipment managers, and it was a really
Mhm.
fun read about how like they partner together where it's like we're on a back-to-back and can you run laundry for us because we got to wear those tonight or we got to wear them tomorrow, and they get in at 3 in the morning and somebody meets them at the airport and takes their laundry. And that could be a whole updated version of Celtics guy saying this. That movie Celtic Pride is freaking terrible. That's a ridiculous movie. But that could be like an updated version, maybe on like a TV show where somebody steals the jerseys of a team and they have to play in the blank white jerseys. There it is.
There you
That's how we
go.
get there.
There you go. I like that this season, at least they don't have the highlighter yellow jerseys, but still,
Yes.
the upgrade for season after this coming one. This
Yeah,
is
to those.
it's such a
They
cool.
just look good.
They
They just
do
look so sharp. Yeah.
such an improvement.
Yep.
Okay, let's jump to the NBA finalizing their deals. Disney, NBC, and Amazon, which means Turner seems like they're on their way out here,
Yep.
which probably means goodbye inside the NBA. But Disney, NBC, and Amazon, and this will be structured. It's a essentially a percentage breakdown. I don't have it off the top of my head. I'll pull the article in just a second here, but ESPN/Disney, they're getting like the bulk of the games, and then it's going from there. Amazon, of course, will be streaming games, and it'll be interesting to see exactly how all this breaks down. But there's also going to be games being streamed, and I saw this word, Keith, and it worries me a little bit, exclusively on Peacock.
Yep.
So does that mean NBA fans are now going to have to subscribe to the Peacock streaming service in order to see these games?
Yeah, it's anytime that word exclusive is there, yeah, that's what it sounds like. What it is NBC gets 100 games per year. This is
There
I
it
think
is.
regular season, and 50 will be exclusively on Peacock. When, what day of the week, we don't know. None of those details have fully come out yet. That'll all get fleshed out here in the next little bit. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like these Amazon Prime games and these Peacock games maybe be something. Now, I would assume just like almost always in a local market, you'll still have the option to watch it, whatever your local channel is. There with that, there was also a thing that came out today too. It sounds like the Diamond Sports Group, which owns Bally Sports, is getting an infusion of cash from, I think it was FanDuel, which if you don't really like the gambling stuff being shoved in your face all the time, well, you're
Get rid of.
probably going to
There's
get
more.
more of it on those broadcasts. But it sounds like that's going to be how they maybe can keep up their end of the bargain. I don't know. I don't know where all that's going to go yet. I know the NBA wasn't super thrilled, and some of the teams that had already lapsed and they're out of those deals. Utah being one of them, Phoenix being another one. They're doing games over the air again. But yeah, the exclusive Peacock one. So like for me in Orlando, I would assume if the Magic were on one of those, I could still watch them on Fox Sports Florida or whatever the heck we're calling it now, Bally Sports Florida. But then for you, if you wanted to watch the Magic play, you might have to pop into Peacock on that
Right.
night and see it. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what that looks like.
And this deal is for 11 years and worth
Yeah.
$76 billion between the three. That's $6.9 billion per season. So this is a big influx of cash here. We've already talked
Two
about
and a half times what it was the old deal was worth.
And so the cap obviously is going to continue to rise with the influx of this cash and all of that. But I mean, this is a big deal. I know for a lot of fans, they're going to take this as beyond just, okay, well, now we've got to find games on Peacock. Now we've got to find games on Amazon and all these other portals. It also means goodbye inside the NBA, which is something that a lot of people love to watch. And so that'll be interesting to see if that does live on somewhere else on another service, another play. I would think just the interest in it is so high that somehow, some way, someone would figure out a way to keep it going.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. A bunch of people said, hey, Ernie Johnson has said his whole piece about how I'm going to stay with Turner, even if the guys go somewhere else. I'm going to stay here. This has been my home. But then I thought a good point was made. Yeah, right up until somebody says, hey, you want to work 1 day a week for 10 million a year? Okay,
Right.
yes, I would like to do that. So, and I wouldn't blame him if that's the decision he made. I, I continue to have people say, well, maybe they'll just keep inside the NBA without the games to lead into it. No one's going to watch it. It just like, how many times as a fan do you flip the channel when a game ends? You probably don't. You probably, unless you're going to another game, probably just let it go on whatever it is or you turn it off. There's a reason why every Friday morning for the last 2 decades, I wake up and the show that's on my TV is Charmed in the morning because I shut it off on TNT the night before,
Yeah.
and they show I don't know how many seasons Charm ran. I must assume Charm ran for 1,000 seasons of television because
That's
I don't.
Supernatural.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's that's what follows Charm. So if you wake
Yeah.
up a little later in the day, you pick
Which I
up
do.
into Supernatural. So yeah, it's yeah, man, it's there's a reason why because you don't go flip. And I get it. I used to game would end, I'd flip to watch Sports Center, right, and catch the highlights and all that stuff. I don't even do that anymore because it's all available immediately. I've already
Mhm.
seen the highlights on Twitter throughout the course of the night. I don't need to go search it out somewhere else. So it's just a
Right.
different world now. So yeah, my guess is someone's going to try to recreate it with let's try to hire all those guys if we can and pop them over, and they'll be NBC's new team or Amazon's new team or that maybe ESPN throws a bag at Charles Barkley and says, "Come on
Mhm.
in, we're going to put you on here, nightly, and we'll go." So this stuff is all ever evolving with that.
All right. Another trade rumor going around. The Thunder have some interest in Patrick Williams. Interesting because I've got the Thunder as a team that are, and you've got to win in the margins too. But Patrick Williams is not, I think he'd be a good fit, but I'm expecting kind of some big things out of the Thunder. I'm expecting them to be in the mix for maybe not the biggest, but like, could they go get Paul George or something like that? Okay, maybe, but, or Brandon Ingram or something. But I'm kind of expecting to see this team make a splash this summer.
Yeah, that's I I I'm trying to balance between how much I expect that versus how much I want that to be what they do because I know I want them to do that.
Sure.
So I am very much as I look at the Thunder, they don't need to fill 3, 4, 5 roster or rotation holes. You need like one more guy. So you've got 35 million to spend. Go get one really good guy. And,
Yeah.
and now we're set moving forward. I like Patrick Williams. It's very funny. I've been having conversation about this for the last like day and a half since this news came out. And I realize I like Patrick Williams way more than I think most people seem to like Patrick Williams. I think a lot of people are just out. They're like, he's been hurt 2 out of his 4
Yeah.
years. He, is kind of leveled off as like a 10.7 rebound guy. And it's what he is, but he shoots it really well. Maybe he never can grow his role beyond that. So I think Patrick Williams is a nice player, but we're talking in a sign and trade as a restricted free agent this summer. What, 17, 18, maybe 20 million? That still leaves 15 million on the table. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds awesome because then that's 15 million you can spend on somebody else. You don't need 2 guys. You really need one. Go get one really good player and bring him in. But I don't hate it if that's where it goes. I would come around very quickly to probably liking that fit for the Thunder. But yeah, I don't know. A little weird. I maybe too. Maybe they can drag more out of him too. Maybe they can get him to be a 15-8 guy or something like that. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I do wonder how many, if you're the Thunder and you're able to go after a guy like a Patrick Williams, like how many minutes does he see in that rotation, and
Sure.
what does that even look like? I mean, is he playing at, like what happens with Josh Giddey? There's a lot that's still up in the air for OKC. But then we also have to remember this time of year, sometimes there's stuff that's coming out that's not from the team side of things. So there could be a little bit of that going on here too.
Yep. And also, let's be honest, they don't need another guy named Williams on this team. Like that'd be 4. And that's and 2 of them already have the same name. So we don't need any more Williamses on the Thunder. Did
There
you
you
know
go.
there's another Jalen Williams in this draft?
No,
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably not
he
going to
has
get
to end up on the
drafted,
Thunder.
but I want the Thunder to pick him up at least on a 2-way.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. And let me double check this while you're pulling up the next topic, but I think he spells it differently from the other 2 too.
If we can mix up Dylan Brooks and
He does.
Marshawn Brooks, we can certainly find a way to stumble through 3 Jalen Williamses
Heck
on
yeah.
the same team.
Let me double check. He spells it like the big Jalen Williams, the J
Okay,
Will. He
gotcha.
spells it the same way, but yeah, he's probably gonna go undrafted. But yeah, but there's another one. He's a forward out of Auburn.
They gotta have him. Gotta
Yep,
complete the set,
should.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that should
Our,
be. Maybe that's in the CBA. We just don't know. I'll dig into the fine
could be
print. They get all
the new
Jalen
rule
Williamses.
automatically.
Yeah.
Automatically, they get discovery rights like in the MLS.
Oh man.
Tim Connolly restructures his contract with the Wolves. Keith, I saw the wording of and okay, the Wolves, they made their run. They were really good, better than people thought they were going to be going into the year. Tim Connolly basically takes his ability to get out of the deal and he pushed it back 1 year. So we could talk about that and why. Actually, let's just get into that. And then I've got another point I need to make. So why is he making this decision to push back his opt out by a year?
Yeah, rather than lock in to a long-term contract, what he basically did is said, let's kind of see where this ownership battle goes. Let's
Yeah.
see what pressures you put on us as far as roster building go over the course of the next year. If it turns into this summer or in the course of the season, we got to get off some money. We need to move guys. I'm sure at that point that changes how he feels about working there. Or if it is, hey, we're going to actually curb spending because we're in this battle and one side wants to do things one way and another side wants to do it another way, and we just can't, no one can authorize anything, then he probably wants to get out. So it's probably just I don't want to walk away because I built this. We're set up to be really good for a number of years here, and I want to stick around, but I'm going to leave the door open if a year from now things are still messy.
So when I saw this headline, and I think that explanation makes perfect sense as to why he would do this. And I think if he does decide that he wants to leave the Wolves, if after a year things are not going well with the ownership situation or whatever, and he decides he wants to leave, I think he'll be in high demand. But the word restructures, Keith, I went, oh no. Let's not have restructures get associated with NBA because you and I both get plenty of questions because of the NFL. Well, can't this guy restructure his contract to free up cap space? It's not a thing with NBA players. So the fact that Tim Connolly restructures contract is the headline here. I know we're going to wind up with questions because of it.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully people will be able to separate that it's a front office person. But dude, I get exactly what you're saying. The back of the Patriots dynasty was, or the Patriots dynasty was built upon the backs of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. But like a supporting, very strong pillar was Tom Brady repeatedly restructuring his contract. So I work at Spot Track. Our guy Mike understands the NFL cap as well, probably even better than I understand the NBA cap. And he's explained it to me like 4 times, and I still don't get it. I'm like, Michael Scott, like, explain it to me like I'm 5. But it's basically, I mean, what Tom Brady would do every year is Tom Brady's set to make $20 million. Tom Brady now makes $2.5 million, and all the rest has been converted into some bonus that'll be paid in the future. And yeah, the future came and it finally all got paid out, and they were in cap hell for a year and the team stunk. But it was it really was like, that was part of it. That's very limitedly allowed in the NBA. And it is more, you can turn guaranteed money into non-guaranteed. It doesn't even free up cap space and, that way and those kind of things. And I think the last guy to do it, I'm going to give you a little bit of a blast from the past. Ty Lawson did it when he was traded from the from the Nuggets to the Rockets. The Rockets got him to turn a fully guaranteed year into a non-guaranteed year. And then guess what happened? Ty Lawson got waived. and he never saw that money, and that's why guys don't do it because
Yeah.
hey, you gave me the guaranteed money, you need to pay it to me.
Well, that's why we don't, or part of why we don't see it in the NBA. The NBA Players Association is much stronger than the NFL's, but we do get that question a lot of, well, can't
Yeah,
this guy just restructure his contract or something and help the team out?
yeah.
That's not how it works.
It always happens like in like March and April when
Yep.
people are getting ready because that's when it's happening in the NFL. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Let's finish. Well, I guess we have a couple. I mean, this is kind of a big thing. Nikola Topic with a partially torn ACL. Not clear exactly when he suffered this injury, whether it
Yep.
was the beginning of the year or if it was into spring here. But it doesn't sound like it's expected to affect his draft stock, but it's a knee issue that he's dealing with. And, something to be aware of considering he probably pretty likely to wind up being at at least a top 4 pick in this draft. So be interesting. I mean, I guess depends on how much the Spurs really want to add another point guard. But
Yeah.
but he's going to be, let's say at worst, he's top 10. Easy.
Top
I
10.
mean,
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
So that's safe. So the torn ACL, not ideal, but doesn't sound like it's the end of the world either for him.
Yeah, and to your point, he had a knee injury in January. He missed a bunch of time. He came back and played. Then he had another knee injury, non-contact, and it looked bad. But then they came out saying actually it wasn't so bad. It was more scary than it was bad, but he is hurting a little bit. Now it's come out. What's happening? Because I've seen some questions like, what is this pre-draft camp combine thing? So what they did was the NBA, every year there's been a thing called Euro camp over in Europe for years and years and years now. What the NBA has done is they've taken a more hands-on approach to being involved. And what the NBA does now is guys like Topic, Zachary Risachet, a handful of those guys, they weren't able to be at the combine when everybody else was there because their teams were still playing. So it'd be like a guy in the playoffs needing to be there because that's where they were essentially at in their various leagues over in Europe. So what happened is those players are required to attend in Europe when the season's over. And then it becomes, hey, you need to do all your measurements, your medical testing, all that, your interviews. And that's where a lot of this is coming out of, a lot of these little news updates and stuff. Because I know there was a very popular quote going around from Risachet where he's like, I feel like I should be the number 1 pick and those kind of things and that. So that was out there. So yeah, this is a bummer because this kid is pretty good. A lot of talent. They're very young, got great size for a point guard. But hey, if it's one of those things, what this maybe impacts the most more than draft status is, maybe we don't see him his rookie year. Maybe he undergoes surgery and it's one of those ones where it's a delayed start to his career. That could be a thing, but we'll see. We'll find out more, I'm sure, right after he's drafted.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully it's not something that robs him of his rookie year.
Yeah.
You always hate to see that. Nico Harrison, Jason Kidd got his extension done with the Mavs. Nico Harrison as well. So the coach and the GM both getting extensions, and rightfully so. The Mavs now in the NBA Finals, which are starting up tomorrow. And so he gets look. The Mavs made big moves, and they all pretty much worked out, right? I mean, Derek Lively, you combine Kyrie and Luka. There were a lot of people who weren't sure that was going to work. You made moves at the trade deadline. The Mavs were a play-in team at the trade deadline. Now here they are in the finals, and you wind up making a big move to get Daniel Gafford to PJ Washington. When you make moves and they work, you tend to get rewarded. So Nico Harrison gets an extension with the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean, well earned, right? He, other than Doncic and a couple other guys, he built this team. So that's what you get. You build a team that has a chance to win a title, they extend you, and off you go. So now, and it's important too. Now, free agents, guys that you may trade for, guys who are looking to be re-signed, they know Nico Harrison's going to be around for a little while longer. Jason Kidd's going to be around for a little while longer, and that's just that kind of stability is something players are often looking for because they don't want to sign with one front office or one to play under one coach, and then it's a change, and all of a sudden it's, man, I signed a 4-year deal, and now the guys who signed me are gone.
Yeah.
And now what happens? Like that, then everybody understands it's a part of life, but that's you'd prefer. All right, these guys are going to be here for a little bit.
Right. Exactly. All right. Last thing that we've got today, David Adelman's going to interview for the Cleveland Cavaliers job. Not a surprise. He's been one of the big names around most of the jobs that are out there. we heard the reports that, you're bringing in James Borrego, Kenny Atkinson at one point was that considered to be the favorite, and maybe that's still the case. But the Cavs obviously are going to interview a lot of people, and hopefully they'll land on the right one. Still a very talented roster, but a lot for them to figure out this summer. And of course, most of it revolves around Donovan Mitchell. But then we've got if Donovan Mitchell stays, does that mean Darius Garland goes? And look, it's going to be a busy summer in Cleveland. So the first domino that needs to fall, though, is they got to figure out who their head coach is going to be.
Yeah, and that coach, like to your point, just has to be very flexible and ready to roll with whatever kind of roster he's given by the time we get there, because Jared Allen's in play. I would assume some of the role players are also in play to be moved as well. So yeah, it's a interesting spot. Adelman feels like a guy who, if it's not this go around, probably next year, like he feels like he's getting really, really close to getting that first head coaching opportunity. So he's just that's how it goes. Sometimes you get an interview for a few times, and then other times you can call a bunch of games on ESPN and get hired right away, I guess.
There you go.
But yeah,
different paths.
I mean, to some extent too, Cavs last job open, right? With the others have now filled. So so we're in a spot where they can, if they feel pretty confident Redick's going to the Lakers, they can take their time a little bit more. Maybe really be choosy about which guy they want to go to. Not that they couldn't before, but if you feel like one of our potential choices isn't on the table, all right, let's keep it moving and keep going with these guys.
Exactly. All right. Well, we got through a lot in today's show.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody joining. Make sure you do subscribe here to the channel. Don't forget to check out the Basketball Bulletin as well. Drop those links in the description. But again, subscribe to the YouTube channel here for the NBA Front Office Show. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. This time of year, we've got, as evidenced by today's show, there's a ton of things happening around the NBA. So make sure that you do subscribe, turn on those notifications, and make sure you tune in. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.